right, we'd like to welcome Gary Woodland into the Media Center here at the Sony Open in Hawaii. He's making his 9th start at this event. Gary, first of all, welcome back to the PGA Tour. September 18th was a huge day for you, and we are glad to have you back. If we can get some thoughts on being back on tour and just the process that you've gone through to get here.
It's been a long process, one that maybe even a couple weeks ago I didn't know if this week was possible. It's been a journey for me too, but this was a goal of mine from surgery, was to be back. I had some people tell me that this was a little optimistic to be here this week, but last week my family and I came over to Hawaii early. We were over on the Big Island staying with some friends in Kona. Really ramped up practice, ramped up the training, and the body responded beautifully last week, kept getting better and better. I've had a lot of phone conversations with Butch to make sure the game was in a good spot, and come here feeling pretty good about the game itself. We'll see how my mental brain holds up for 7 days of focus and stress, but I'm definitely excited to be here.
And before questions, you're making, as I mentioned, your 9th start here, 3 top 10 finishes on a golf course that you like. Just talk a little bit about being back.
Yeah, it's always a great place to start in Hawaii. Golf course, I think's a very good golf course. One, driving's a premium, ball striking's a premium, which usually sets up pretty good for me. I don't think it favors any type of player. You just got to play well. Long, short, it really favors who's playing the best golf, so I'm excited about that.
All right, get started with questions. Let's go Adam here.
Eric, we just start at the beginning. How did you find out that you had a situation that was going to require surgery?
Yeah, I started feeling some symptoms in April, a couple weeks after Augusta. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, the big one was I just wasn't feeling like myself, but it was a lot of jolting, especially in the middle of the night, shaking, hands were really tremoring, a lot of fear. And that was the one that scared me the most. Was I'm a very optimistic person, believe good things will happen, and I was very fear-driven every day, mostly around death. And as it got worse, loss of appetite, chills, no energy, it started getting pretty bad to where I was meeting. I have a performance coach. I'm working with her. It started getting so bad. I called my doctor, RSFI, who I've been with for 13 years, and I was like, man, I need something to calm me down, like almost anxiety. And he's like, Gito, I can't give you anything without an MRI. And I'm like, I'm shaking so bad. He wanted to rule out Parkinson's. And I got an MRI that night, and it came back with a lesion. Looks like a tumor on my brain. Started going through more testing, more MRIs. They got me to a specialist in Kansas City who explained everything to a T, that the jolting and everything I was experiencing at night was actually partial seizures. The fear, this lesion in my brain sat on the part of the brain that controls fear and anxiety. So he's like, you're not going crazy. Everything you're experiencing is absolutely common and normal for where this thing's sitting in your brain. They got me on anti-seizure medicine immediately. The seizures still continued, so they increased the dose, and once they increased the dose, that started to go down. I started losing memory. I started doing a lot of things. Started happening, the symptoms started getting worse, but the only ones they were worried about was the fear and anxiety. And as the medicine started to increase, my brain started to slow down, and those seizures started to stop, which was nice for me because I was able to function during the day. But the meds I was on were working for the seizures, but they were horrible for me as a person. I had horrible side effects, and that's the fear went away for a couple weeks. And once it came back, and I was calling the doctors, they were tracking the brain with monthly MRIs to make sure everything was stable and it wasn't growing. But when the fear started to come back, the doctor's like, we have to go in. It was pushed on the brain. The part that it's pushing on, they believed that it was growing. And I played through Greensboro. And the reason why I kept playing is my game, from a physical standpoint, felt really good. And I was in positions that I've been trying to get into a long time, and it was a break from what I was dealing with off the golf course. It was hard because we didn't tell anybody, but it was just we didn't understand either. We didn't know exactly what was going on, And my caddy pulled me aside after Greensboro. We were staying together in the house. My wife was flying out most weekends just because I didn't want to be alone. I was nervous. Sleeping was the worst part because I was just jolting, jumping out of bed with fear. And mostly, like I said, around death. And so my caddy pulled me aside. He's like, "G-Dub, you can't play this way. You got to go get help, man. You got to get fixed." I mean, I'd be standing over a club and forget which club I was hitting. I'd be lining up putts, and I'm like, "Oh, it's just taking too long. I'm just going to hit it." I just didn't have the focus, the energy. And I went the next week to see a specialist that I was referred to in Miami, which was nice because it was close to home. And he's like, "We got to go in. We got to get this out. We can keep ramping up medicine, but the medicine's not slowing down the fear. Biopsy, it's too risky from where it was in my brain. He didn't want to go in any more than he had to. So surgery and removal was the next step. They couldn't get it all out from where it is located. It was benign, which is the big deal. If it was cancerous, they would have removed it all, but it's up against my optic tract. So they removed as much as they could, and they believe they cut off the blood circulation to what's left. So they're tracking it right now with every 3 months with MRIs still. I had an MRI right before I came to Hawaii a week and a half ago, and everything was stable from surgery. So that's a huge relief for me. So showing up in Hawaii practicing the last 10 days, I had a little bit of relief off my back that it's stable in there right now, and we'll just pray and hope that it continues to not grow.
You start feeling better immediately?
The fear went down immediately, and that was filled with thankfulness. I mean, the support from the tour, from people outside the golf world has just been tremendous for me and my family. And when I woke up and realized I was okay, I was filled with thankfulness and love, and that replaced the fear. It was emotional, very emotional, because I'd gone 4.5 months of every day really thinking I was going to die. And the doctors kept telling me I was okay, but this thing pushing on my brain on fear and anxiety it didn't matter if I was driving a car, on an airplane, I think the bin's going to follow me. Everything I thought was going to kill me. And so you can imagine leading up to surgery, how I felt going into having my head cut open and operated on. The fear going into that was awful. So, I mean, I felt it was hard on me. It was probably harder on my family for what they had to deal with me throughout this whole thing, and try to keep me positive and keep me looking forward. And that was hard to do in the moment. So after surgery, I definitely felt relief. One that I could see, one that I had the left side of my body, because those were the two big risks going in, losing eyesight and losing the left side of my body. Having those when I woke up, being able to go home. I spent 2 days in the ICU, and then walked out of the hospital.
There was a chance you could have been paralyzed on the left side?
It was the risk. The blood vessels around where they were going in were connected to the left side of my body. The optic tract that the thing set on, that's why they told me before surgery they didn't believe they could get it all out, because it was just too risky for losing eyesight. So I knew going in they probably weren't going to be able to get it all out. And they said they would get as much as they could until they weren't 100. It was surgeon's judgment when he got in there of what he was cutting out and what he knew 100% it wasn't going to affect my livelihood. And he got as much as he could, to a point where he wasn't 100% sure what he was cutting, and so he left what he did in there. But like I said, he believes he cut off the blood circulation, that it hopefully dies and won't be able to grow what's left.
First MRI?
My first MRI was May. Symptoms started at Vedanta. My first MRI was May 24th.
Emotionally, emotionally, you've always been a kind of a portrait of control.
Yeah.
What was that like to try and all of a sudden you're all over the place?
That was the hardest part for me, is I wasn't myself. That was probably the hardest part for my family as well. To live, I'm 39 years old, to live a life one way, and then all of a sudden you're not yourself. You have no control. I work hard with performance coaches and psychologists since I was 16 years old. You think you can overcome stuff, and I couldn't overcome this. Every day it was a new way of dying. It was a new way of death. The jolting in the middle of the night scared the heck out of me.
What's a jolting? I'm not sure I follow that.
It was a partial seizure is what they explained to me. I'd be completely asleep and jump out of bed, and then fear would set in. Fear fear. I have a fear of heights and fear that I'm falling from heights. Where, I mean, it was Wednesday night or Thursday night of Memorial. I'm laying in bed at 1 o'clock, grabbing the bed to tell myself I wasn't falling from heights, that I wasn't dying, and I mean for an hour, and to have to get up and play the next day and play through it. The golf was the only thing that was allowed me a little break for a little bit of time. I didn't have the energy to do it 7 days a week, but it did give me a little bit of break. When I decided to shut it down, I mean, my energy, I was practicing 5-6 hours a day. I'd play obviously on tour. When I shut it down, decided I was going to have surgery. I had 21 days before surgery when I found out. I mean, I'd had an hour of energy a day. I was telling my wife, I don't know how I just played. I mean, I played 10 weeks with these symptoms, 8 weeks on the meds. The meds, when I started the meds, I mean, I'd take the meds twice a day at 7 a.m., 7 p.m. I mean, if I didn't take an energy pill or something, I'd be asleep by 9 a.m. It just completely depleted. It slowed my brain down and just depleted my energy, and I just had nothing. So I'm eating energy stuff all day to stay awake and play. But it stopped the seizures, you know, and so that was a good thing, obviously. But the fear and the moodiness, the energy, irritable, the focus, everything, the meds just completely depleted me. And I'm still on the meds. They've switched me brands, and since they've switched me brands, the last 5, I guess almost 7 weeks now, I've been on the new brand. I'm starting to feel like myself again. The energy's back. The side effects I was dealing from the first med have gone away. So that's been a huge relief for me and my family and my caddy. They don't have to deal with me being moody all the time now. But they were trying to switch me meds throughout this whole process. But 2 weeks before the British, they want to switch me meds because the side effects were getting so bad. And I told the doctor, I said, Doc, I got a major championship in 2 weeks. I know what these side effects are. I don't want to switch and get new side effects before I go to the British. So some of that, I probably could have got better with different side effects if I switched earlier, but I didn't want to mess up my chance to play well up for golf. So it was a big balance, and it was a process. Hopefully I never have to go through again.
How do you think this experience has changed you?
A lot. One, I realized there's a lot of good in this world because the love and support I've had has been unbelievable. Even being back this week, seeing the guys, I haven't seen many guys. It's been overwhelming how good it's been. I've learned a lot about myself from the standpoint. Usually people ask me for help, and I'm not asking. I'm very fortunate and probably lucky why I'm sitting here being able to play this week that I asked for help, because when I was struggling, if my doctor would have given me anxiety or some medicine to calm me down and not ordered that MRI, who knows how long this would have gone, who knows how more it would have grown. Asking for help helped my process speed up, helped us catch this quicker than we probably would have caught it. And that helped me to saved me for more than anything. So it's, I can't do it all on my own. I need the right people around me, and I'm fortunate enough that I had people around me that were willing to help and the right people to get me in the right places. It's definitely helped me.
Would you mind sharing one example of the love and support you've received?
Yeah, obviously the tour's been amazing from Jay all the way down. People reaching out, sending stuff to the house, people taking care of my family and kids. The messages my wife has received, it was hard because in the start we didn't tell anybody, like I said. So my team knew and my family knew, and that was it. And when we announced that I was going to have surgery, we announced it so much later. It was 4 months after we'd found out, and people started going through the same emotions that we were going through when we found out. So it was hard. But the love and support that people reaching out, I mean, left and right. I mean, you're talking people outside the golf world, people in outside arenas, people that I hadn't spoken to a lot, didn't know very well. And not only just saying we're thinking about you, we're praying for you, literally continuing to check in, continuing to ask if I need anything. What does your family need? My team's been tremendous, but it's been nice to know that we're not alone in this journey. And I could go through names left and right, but it's nice to know we're not alone.
Just curious, throw one name out. receive some messages from JB Holmes?
I did not talk to JB. I know JB's dealt with some brain stuff, but I did not talk to JB. Yeah.
Why didn't you? Why did you want to keep it to yourself? It's maybe an obvious answer.
At the big answer was we just didn't understand what we were dealing with. They were tracking it, so there was nothing they could do until the next MRI was coming. So it was hard to tell people because we didn't know. The MRIs, even the MRI I had a couple weeks ago, the readings and the reports from the MRI are a lot worse than what happened when they got in pathology, when all that came back from when they got in there. It's the MRI is saying it looks bad, and obviously they're cutting my head open and going in and removing stuff from my brain, but pathology was inconclusive, which they say is I was nervous when I got that reading, but they're saying it's great because it's not stage 4. It's reading as a low-grade glioma tumor, but pathology is saying it's grading so low we don't know what exactly it is. So like I said, it's hard to explain because we just didn't know, and we'll continue to track it, but continue to believe that they did what they needed to in surgery, and it's not going to continue to grow.
Did you say you were out 2 days after the surgery?
I was in ICU for 2 nights. They brought a wheelchair to the ICU room and I said, "I'm sorry, I walked in this place. I'm walking out." And I got out of bed and I walked straight to the car and got home, and it was amazing seeing my kids. My kids didn't come while I was in the hospital. We didn't want to bring them to see me like that. And I had 30 staples in my head and was at it for a while, but it was amazing to get home and see them.
Yep, Kevin.
You mentioned it was at Ladonto when you first. Were you on the course at?
I was sleeping Saturday night.
And what was like?
Jolting, and woke up jolting, and then fear set in, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know, if maybe a panic attack. I didn't know, and I played Charlotte the next week, and it continued to get worse. My caddy told me Friday at Charlotte, he's like, "Jib, this is the best I've ever seen your mental side." And I'm like, I don't know if I can play this weekend. I really don't. I'm like, I just fear that I'm never going to play golf again, that I'm going to die. My wife flew in, and I think I finished 14th that week somehow. I don't know how I did it, but it continued to get worse from there, and that's the PGA was next. My performance coach was in New York. I went and saw her for 3 days after missing the cut at the PGA. It was nauseous the whole PGA, and that's when I called my doctor asking for something, and he ordered the MRI. It was a week after the PGA.
And it was something where, like, on the course, it was an escape. Like, did you think about it when you were playing, or was it pretty much like just separated?
The golf was a break because I was so focused in trying to hit a golf shot. Probably why I didn't have the energy to finish around, but it was a small break. Most of this, it all started in the middle of the night, and it wasn't every night, but when it did come, it was throughout the day, and it was a horrible experience. I had it 3 nights the week of the PGA, 2 nights the week of Memorial. Memorial was the week I started the medicine. So it was a process. And that was the biggest fear, not knowing. I didn't know if it was coming tonight. So, yeah, it's when I didn't want to be alone. I started renting houses with my caddy if my wife didn't come out, and renting houses with people just to make sure I wasn't alone.
Dave.
A couple of things. Are you hearing from people that you've never met who are inspired by you, and vice versa, who are inspiring you? And the other thing would be, are you sleeping through the night okay now?
Yeah, I had a little tough spell sleeping leading up to that MRI a couple weeks ago, just because I was a little nervous probably leading up, and but everything came back well. That's been nice. I've been sleeping very well. People say I've had some messages saying I've inspired people. At the end of the day, I just want to prove you can do hard things. I want to prove to my kids that nobody's going to tell you can't do anything. You can overcome even some of the toughest, scariest decisions and things in your life. Not everything's easy. This came out of nowhere for me, but I'm not going to let it stop me. I don't want this to be a bump in the road for me. I want it to be a jump start in my career. I've had people reach out that have gone through similar experiences, and hearing their recovery and the stuff, dealing with similar things has definitely helped. I've talked to athletes that have gone through concussions and protocols because that's some of the similar stuff that I'll be dealing with going forward. So yeah, it's been a lot of communication with a lot of people, but at the end of the day, I'm here because I believe this is what I've been born to do, is to play great golf. And I want to do that again. It's been a while. It's been a couple years, and nothing's going to stop me. I believe that, and I believe a lot of great things are ahead.
Thank you.
Yep. Doug?
Did you see Kuchar last week?
I did.
Did you beat him?
We didn't play together, but I saw him. I played with Cooch 2 months ago, or a month and a half ago, maybe. I saw him a couple times. He came in before surgery, came in after surgery to check on me at the house. So I've seen him a couple times. The game we played, the only time we played, it was a team game. So I don't know. I'll say I did, but yeah, yeah, for sure.
I'm curious, when you got back from the hospital, what was that first month like?
It was hard. I mean, I was on the couch for a month, so you know, my kids definitely aren't used to seeing me on the couch. I'm used to going. It was hard. My son was very scared of me when I didn't have something on my head to cover the scar, the staples. You know, he's 6. He doesn't understand. Thought I was dying. So that was hard for him. So I kept a bandage on my head for most of those first 2 weeks, and then once the staples came out, you know, he was so excited that I was healing. Everything was good then. So I was on the couch for 4 weeks. I didn't have much energy from surgery, so there wasn't much I could do. And it was an eye-opener to see the stuff my wife actually deals with, because I'm usually gone at the golf course and traveling. Now I was home and seeing her raise 3 kids and be a nurse as well, taking care of me. So I have a even bigger respect for what my wife deals with. But it was nice. The first 2 weeks, like I said, I was filled with love and thankfulness. And then it was, what's the next step? How do I start getting back? How do I get healthy? My wife was very fortunate or nice to me and allowed me to turn our dining room into a putting green. So I had full swing simulators come in, and we put the putt view into our dining room. And so I was putting 2 days after surgery. So the 30 minutes or an hour of energy I had a day, I've been putting the whole time. So that was nice. And then I started swinging. I got cleared to swing 4 weeks after surgery. I didn't have the energy to do it, so I waited 5 weeks after surgery before I started swinging. But I also couldn't drive, so that was the hard part. Fortunately, my dad was in town, so my dad would drive me to the golf course and pick me up when I started. And I started swinging about 5 weeks after surgery, and that's right after that's when I played 9 holes for the first time. I don't remember exactly when it was. I could go back and look because I played so poorly. I called Butch. I called my doctor first. I'm like, can I travel? Can I fly? He's like, yeah, you're cleared. You can fly. And I'm like, I called Butch. I'm like, are you home? He's like, I'm home. I'm like, I'm coming. I'm flying. So I was nervous to fly the first time. Walking through metal detectors, but I guess it's all titanium in there. So I'm walked through the metal detectors. I cleared that. Flew to Vegas and saw Butch. And 20 minutes in, it was very rusty. And then 30 minutes in, he's like, G-Dub, you're right where you're supposed to be. So it's been a good process.
Where's the titanium?
It's here. So it was a craniotomy. So they cut me open all the way down to my ear, opened it up, cut about a baseball-sized hole in my skull, and then went in through that, and then put it back with plates and screws. So I'm got a robotic head, I guess.
The last thing, just out of curiosity, knowing you, what did you ever fear before these symptoms?
Not much. Fear of not being great, I guess, would probably be it. Fear of failure would be the only thing I had. But I mean, it was, and that's, like I said, it came out of nowhere. This was a new experience for me. Taking out, being an optimistic person, taking that away, and everything's death. And it was new. I mean, everything from driving a car to, like I said, getting on an airplane, which we're traveling for a living, coming home, seeing my kids do something. Oh, my kids, something bad's going to happen to them. I mean, it was a horrible experience. So all you wanted to do was go to sleep, just to not think about it. And going to sleep was the worst part, because that's where all these seizures were happening. So it was a horrible 4 months, 5 months.
What's the most impactful thing Major Dan said?
He's been amazing through this whole process. When we announced it, he's reached out weekly. He's obviously, people that know him, he's one of the most motivational people around. And he not only talks to me, he talks to my parents, so he knows when my MRIs are. He knows all that, and he's checking in on a regular basis. But one is just keep your faith, to stay positive, to continue to believe. And that's, like I said, he's been there for me my whole life. Since I met him in 2006, he's been there for me. But through this process, he's been unbelievable.
All right, let's take a couple more.
What would you describe the size of what they took out of your brain?
I don't know. It wasn't massive. My wife saw the video of it. Unfortunately, didn't see that. I don't know exactly. It wasn't massive by any means. And I asked them when we found it, how long do you think it's been in there? And they're like, without a previous MRI, we have no idea. So they don't know. But the fact that my symptoms were getting so worse and so rapid, they believe it was growing. And so however much was in there, I believe they got half of it. I don't know that. But what is under there, I know, is up against the optic tract, and there's a blood vessel close that was to the left side of my body that they didn't want to mess with. And the big deal is, from the last MRI a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, everything's stable from the MRI I had immediately after surgery.
How long will you be on medicine?
For a while. It's standard protocol for 6 months. The big deal is, I was talking to a neurologist recently, and he said the fact that I haven't had a seizure since surgery, there's only two explanations. One, surgery, the part that they removed was the part that was causing the seizure, or the medicine's working, which we know it's not the meds, because I was on the meds having seizures before. So they believe surgery was successful from that standpoint, but the only way to know that is to come off the medicine, which 6 months would be March 18th. I don't know if I want to come off a couple weeks before Augusta, so I might wait till I have a bigger break in the year to taper off the meds, but I'm looking forward to getting off the meds.
And what are your goals for this season now?
This week will be a big week. Obviously, I can hit every golf shot I want right now physically. Can my brain sustain the 7 days of tournament golf? It's different playing with my buddies back home at Pine Tree to come out here and play against the guys on tours. Obviously, a whole nother animal. But can I get back to the focus and energy and stuff I'm used to, accustomed since I've been on tour? Can that come back? So, and if it's not this week, can I adjust? Can I go home and practice and adjust and work on that focus stuff? But obviously, I'm in the major championships. I'm not in the signature designated events, so I'll need some help getting in those. But I plan on playing a full schedule. I plan on being competitive very quickly. Like I said, physically, I can hit any shot I want, and that's not going to be the problem. So I'm looking forward to being back and looking forward to where I'm at, and expecting to be ready very soon.
All right, let's take the last one, Dave.
If I can circle back to something you said at the very beginning, there was something about how there was some advice that maybe this was too soon. And I don't know if there is precedence, but what would it normally be if that's the right?
Yeah, I don't know that. And everybody's different. The surgeon told me before surgery, I was like, how quickly can I be back? And they told me I'd be hitting balls within 4 to 6 weeks, which I was 5 weeks after surgery. But they're like, you just won't want to play golf. You won't want to compete for a while just because of the focus. I can go out and do it for a day or two. Can I do it 7 days this week? We'll find out this week. But so far it's been good. I slept great last night. I played 9 holes this morning. I'm going to go play 9 holes again this afternoon. But it's the focus deal. It's the overstimulation. Like I'll be at the house. If all 3 kids are on an iPad or phone and it's just too much, I'll have to leave the room for a while. So it's, what can I handle? Next week I'm still under 4 months. Next week will be 4 months from surgery. That's probably the date where they said after 4 months I should be pretty good. So we'll see.
It's like you don't really know until you do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Gary, your situation shows us golf isn't all that important in the grand scheme of things. We're thankful to have you here healthy, and best of luck going forward.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.